Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Orr. The Philadelphia Phillies are in the NLCS after beating the Braves, playing the Diamondbacks, and the Diamondbacks just look a little bit out of their depth. I know the first two games were in Phillies. I would be shocked if this thing goes 6 games. I don't think it's going back to Philly. I think Philadelphia wins 2 out of 3 if they don't sweep them. The Diamondbacks just aren't that good of a team. I mean, they're the last team to get in the postseason. They barely finished over 500. Their offense leaves a lot to be desired. They really only have a couple of good pitchers, and both of them pitched in games 1 or 2. I just don't see a path for them digging out of this hole. Phillies are playing way too good. I think we both said before the NLDS, whoever wins that series should be the favorite to win the World Series. It certainly looks like that. They're just clicking on all cylinders, and everyone's going to talk about the offense, and they're slugging like the Braves did during the regular season. But what's even more impressive to me has been the pitching. They've shut down the Diamondbacks completely in the first 2 games. They shut them out last night. They shut down the Braves for the most part outside of a late inning outburst in game 2. They are clicking on all cylinders, and you kind of see all the national media talking about the Phillies. Oh, they should be the favorites. And yeah, they probably should be the favorites. But how big of favorites is what I want to talk about this evening, because something's going on the other side that just is kind of flying under the radar and nobody's talking about it. But the Texas Rangers went into Tampa Bay, really good team, swept them in the wild card series. Then they go on the road to face the Royals, win those 2 games, or Orioles, sweep a team that was the number 1 seed in the AL. Then they go on the road in Houston, win games 1 and 2, and now they're set up to go to the World Series. Well, they haven't lost a game in the playoffs, and you look at that lineup, it matches up just as evenly as a team like the Braves or a team like the Phillies. And they're pitching. Nathan Eovaldi has been there and done that. He's pitching really well. Jordan Montgomery has been there and done that. He's pitching really well. Their bullpen is not as good as the Phillies, but it looks like we're going to have a battle of buzzsaws meeting in the World Series. 2 teams that are just playing unbelievable baseball. And yes, the Phillies should be the favorite, but don't count out that team out there in Texas.
I don't know if I would just write off the Astros either. I mean, yeah, they're up 2-0 or down 2-0, excuse me. But talk about been there, done that. This Astros team has done that. They're not as good as they have been in years past, but they've still got guys. They've still got the pitching. They've still got the bats. I wanted to say just, overarching theme. I think it's more likely that the Astros win in 7 than the Diamondbacks get a game in their conference series conference series. I just think the Diamondbacks look outmatched in every facet of the game. Every single facet, the Phillies own them. It's very clear that the Phillies are riding high. They're playing their absolute best right now. And the same can be said for the Rangers. I'm not trying to diminish what they've done thus far. I'm just trying to illuminate the fact that there's 3 teams left that can still win the World Series, and the Diamondbacks are not one of them, obviously.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks aren't a good baseball. I mean, I hate to say they aren't a good baseball
They are
team.
a good baseball team, but they're not even close to
They're
those
not.
3
I
other
mean,
teams.
what they did against the Dodgers was more a testament to what I said about the Dodgers the entire season, which they were a bunch of frauds because, yes, they won a lot of games, but they did so just like purely on offense. They have no pitching, and it got even more depleted later in the season when the Urias domestic violence thing came up. And then Kershaw, you know him, like he's a great regular season pitcher, but he chokes harder than any Hall of Fame pitcher has ever choked. In the MLB playoffs. He's just not a good playoff pitcher for one reason or another. It obviously has something to do with pressure because there's really no other reason to explain it. Walker Buehler obviously didn't come back. So a lot of the things that they were hoping to happen with their starting pitchers never did. And they were just pitching a bunch of young guys and like Lance Lynn. And that's just not going to win you a playoff series. I wasn't shocked that they lost the series to the Diamondbacks. I was shocked the way they lost it, getting swept like that. It was very embarrassing, but I expected them to fall in embarrassing fashion at some point, whether it was the NLCS or the NLDS. They just weren't that good of a team. And the Phillies are doing to the Diamondbacks what should have been done to the Diamondbacks, a couple series ago. They're just not built for this moment. They're out of their depth. So the Phillies are going to go to the World Series. That there's no doubt about that. And but I do think this Rangers team, and I don't want to count out the Astros either, but when you say been there, done, I mean, nobody has come back from 2-0 on the road after losing the first 2 games. So because the way the NLCS also lines up, I think almost favors the road team or the lower seed because you get to go 3 games back home. So they just have to win 2 out of 3 at home. And that series never even goes back to Houston for those pressure 6-7. So I don't see either series going past 5 games. I really don't. I think the Rangers will take care of business. I think they're playing the best ball of their series, and I think the Phillies are going to take care of this. And it's kind of disappointing because this postseason, outside of a dramatic game 2 and that Phillies Braves series, has been very, very boring. And it kind of sucks because I think the new rules are fantastic. I think they've made it more engaging. I think fans that are just tuning in for the postseason like the way that it's being played compared to what it was in years past. Unfortunately, these games have just been, for the most part, downright awful.
Yeah, the best part about this entire postseason has just been Citizens Bank. That's like literally it. That's the only captivating storyline thus far. This Phillies team is dominating. It feels like it's theirs to lose. We kind of expect the Rangers to meet them in the World Series, though I still think that the Astros shouldn't be counted out. I could absolutely see them giving the Rangers a run for their money. They've just got that kind of DNA. But it does feel like it's the Phillies to lose, and rightfully so, because every single storyline this postseason, the national storylines, have been about the Phillies. It's been about Citizens Bank. It's been about Bryce Harper, Castellanos, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, all of their stars stepping up. Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, just their guys being, stepping up on the biggest stage. And it feels like it's theirs to lose. If they don't win, those fans are going to be heartbroken after losing in, what we expect to be back-to-back World Series.
And that's kind of like why I'm just bringing up the Rangers, because you're 100% right. I mean, all the storylines, all the cool parts about the postseason have been Bryce Harper stepping up and just being an absolute superstar. And then, Nick Castellanos stepping up and his son being right there in the crowd and all those moments, and Citizens Bank Park going wild, and Kyle Schwarber being one of the great postseason players of our lifetime, despite having a negative WAR. Listen, this is the point where I say I stand my ground and say WAR was made up by a fat nerd who's never played the game in his life. Because anybody who says you don't want Kyle Schwarber on your team hasn't watched a single postseason game, because the guy is just an absolute animal. Plus, he hits 40-plus homers almost every single season, and yet somehow some nerd is going to tell me he's not a valuable piece to a winning team. Like, that's just BS. I'm just saying that's BS. You gotta if you can't somehow quantify that Kyle Schwarber is a valuable player, I don't care if he hit below 200. I don't care if he doesn't play defense. You got a messed up stat that you need to figure out, because every time this guy shows up, he shows up in October and plays exactly like he did in the regular season. It's not like he wasn't doing this in the regular season either. Like, this is just how he played. He's now a DH. He hits bombs and he sets the place on fire, and he sets the tone at the top of that Phillies lineup. Most unconventional guy ever. He's kind of like the Jorge Soler of their team. Like, he just hits a bomb and all of a sudden the juice is flowing through the entire team. And that kind of juice is contagious throughout their entire lineup, and you can feel it. But because all those national storylines are going on in Philadelphia and they deserve all of them, Texas, who hasn't lost a playoff game, is just flying under the radar. And I think they're going to fly under the radar into this World Series. They're not going to get any of the hype. And I think that does play to the advantage of the Rangers, who just are kind of doing their thing out there in Texas. And Creed's going to be playing. Creed's going to be playing at the ballpark, Globe Life Field. It's going to be electric. But I agree. Yes, it does feel like it's the Phillies to lose. They are playing unbelievable baseball. And as I said, I've said it a million times, but yes, they are a fantastic baseball team, and they are playing the way that I always thought they should have played throughout the regular season. For whatever reason, they can't do it over 162 games. I can't really explain it. But when this team gets to October, they have the talent to kind of flip that switch. You talk about that. It's harder to do in baseball than a lot of other sports, but the Phillies are showing that they can do it.
It's just different DNA. And a lot of those guys are experienced. Like, they don't have many young guys that are being relied on heavily. Like Bryce Harper's on the opposite side of 30. All of their stars are around 30 or over 30. And you're seeing that it matters in the postseason. Whereas, just to kind of point to the Braves, their oldest superstar is Max Fried and Matt Olson. Whereas, Ronald King Jr. is 26 years old. Ozzie Albies 26 years old. All Michael Harris is 22 or 23 years old. Like, these guys have not been there, done that just yet. And that's not to say that their time has yet to come, because I think me and you, every Braves fan, believes that eventually this core that they've put together will eventually climb the mountain again. It's just a matter of, do you have that DNA when the lights are brightest? And the Phillies have it in spades.
Yeah, the Braves need to get their swagger back, man. I mean, you just watch the Phillies, and as much as I hate them and as much as I don't want Philadelphia to get a championship or anything like that, because why would you? I mean, they're division rivals. They're Phillies, a dirty sports city. I mean, why would I ever want them to win? It's hard not to watch their team and be like, damn, I like this team. Like, it really is. Like, I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, damn, dude, I love Bryce Harper.
The
I
players
love Trey
aren't
Turner.
the
They got
players aren't the
swag.
facets that we hate. It's the nasty, dirty Philly fans that throw batteries and beer on the opposing team's wives and families. It's those people that, that get a terrible reputation. It's not Bryce Harper. It's not Nick Castellanos. It's not Trey Turner. It's not Kyle Schwarber. It's not Aaron Nola. It's not Zach Wheeler. It's not Rob Thompson. It has nothing to do with the team. The team is honestly maybe one of the most likable, what will be a championship team ever. It's the fans. It's just the fans that make them unbearable.
Well, the Braves, I mean, they just need to get that swagger back. I mean, there's just swag everywhere on Philly. I mean, Bryce Harper, you got Kyle Schwarber got the biggest nuts in the game when it comes to October. Trey Turner's got swag. Nick Castellanos unbuttons one of his shirts every time he hits a homer. He's damn near playing shirtless out there. Yeah. I mean, it's just there's just swagger, man. And the Braves have that.
Even mentioned JT Realmuto.
And the Braves had that in 2021, right, with Jock Peterson, and they just had the intimidation factor with Jorge Soler walking up there to bat first. And I'm sorry, anytime Jorge Soler steps in the box at the first inning of a playoff game, the opposing pitcher is pissing down his leg. The Braves just don't have that right now. They do not have the same intimidation, and that stuff is contagious. It doesn't need to be every player, but you need to have people in the clubhouse that bring that toughness and that intimidation factor, and that it doesn't matter that we're here in October right now. We're going to get the job done because we are, we're badasses. Like, and that's what we're missing right now. I don't know why they let those guys walk out the door in favor of Eddie Rosario, maybe because of just that NLCS thing. But you look back on those moves and you're like, dang, that was a mistake. And they lost that swagger since 2021 because these teams are way better that they've had the last 2 years. Yet they haven't had the same results. And that's they need to get that back. Coming up after the break, we're going to break down the Bucks and the Falcons' huge NFC South matchup.